serves as my eyes. Through its burning gaze, I see all. I am the embodiment of supreme authority, witnessing the rise and fall of empires. I shall safeguard civilization. Cycle of the sun and moon. Face the sun. The sun always rises.
What's up, everyone? We got a new SSR hero, the Verdian tank Kinich with his Makwawip weapon. It has been a long time since the last SSR Verdian tank hero, Artio, was released over 1 year ago in May 2023. Let's get this analysis started. His ultimate skill is Soul Swap. The website says Life Swap, but the in-game name is Soul Swap. It states a passive effect for him. He greatly reduces his healing received from his allies, so the only effective healing is from himself. This is important to take into consideration because grouping him with fellow faction healers like Nagakanya and Adun won't help him. Anyways, Soul Swap's main effect does what the name says. It swaps his HP percentage with the highest HP percentage enemy's HP. This is followed by massive damage on that enemy. This only works if the enemy has a higher HP percentage than him and is not a boss. Otherwise, he doesn't swap his HP with that higher percentage HP enemy and instead deals a percentage of his current HP as damage. Before we go over Kinich's regular skills, let's first show his attack energy amounts. Testing shows that his auto attack gives 80 energy, Glorious Impact gives 165, and Divine Ray gives 160. Looking at his regular skills, 2 are active and 1 is passive. Starting with the passive skills, Sun's Searing Stare, this skill is what will help Kinich be the tank hero. It casts a negative burning debuff on enemies who attack him, which increases his damage reduction from those enemies while reducing their attack and causing damage over time, or DOT, on them. Additionally, Kinich heals based on how many enemies are affected by the burning debuff. His first active skill is Glorious Impact, which is his crowd control skill. It does 3 things: enemy buff negation in the skill range, damage to multiple enemies, and a follow-up stun that increases in duration based on the number of enemy buffs removed. His second active skill is Divine Ray, which is his generic damage skill. The website says Solar Radiation, but the in-game name is Divine Ray. In addition to damaging the single enemy target, the skill damages other enemies with the burning debuff only if the main target has the debuff too. His iconic weapon distribution is high in Ahau, low in Anka, and somewhat average in the other categories. His Chimera attribute is magical resistance, so this already makes him good for PvP as a tank against magic enemies like Amaterasu and Prometheus. For his iconic weapon 2 nodes, the ideal colors are yellow or green, and the ideal attributes are defensive. Since he already has built-in magical resistance, he can either stack more resistance or balance both sides by getting yellow nodes for physical resistance. His iconic weapon skills give him improvements to Soul Swap and Sun's Searing Stare. Iconic Weapon 100 adds a passive skill, Sunfire Pact. It is like Death Pact and gives him a short time to stay alive. The great thing about Sunfire Pact is that it can refresh after some time. Iconic Weapon 200 gives the burning debuff to the soul swap target. Iconic Weapon 300 gives Kinich additional healing for damage dealt outside of Burning's DOT. Iconic Weapon 400 gives Sunfire Pact a one-time refresh after using Soul Swap. Iconic Weapon 500 improves the non-burning damage healing from Iconic Weapon 300. Iconic Weapon 600 is a great skill. It improves the burning DOT, but more importantly, it greatly reduces the enemy's critical damage resistance. This can help allies with high critical chance. For his equipment, the best set is Aegis Shield and Earth Runes. Since he takes significantly less healing from allies, and only relies on his own healing from Sun's Searing Stare, the best decision is to mitigate all incoming damage. He's not guaranteed to survive all the incoming damage before he can use Soul Swap, so it's better to equip him safely. His Divinity skill set is average, but it gets better towards the higher levels. With 2 nodes, pick Symbiosis and Torment. With 3 nodes, pick Symbiosis and Extraordinary. With 4 nodes, pick those 3 skills. With 5 nodes, pick Extraordinary and Recovery. With 6 nodes, there are 2 options. Symbiosis, Extraordinary, and Recovery helps his team. Recovery and Pristine focuses on keeping himself alive. With 7 nodes, again, there are 2 options that improve on the 6 node options. The first option switches Symbiosis for Primal Totem. The second option adds Symbiosis. His PvE performance seems average. I do not perceive anything that makes Kinich a particularly great PvE campaign hero. His boss performance would be terrible, since his skill set is suited for fighting multiple enemies, and tanks are usually not prioritized for boss battles. His Crusade performance would also be terrible. Not only would he be suboptimal for Jormungandr, but he is also one of the lesser prioritized divinity trees' immortality. His PvP performance is where I see him performing better. Soul Swap is the type of skill that can turn the tides mid-battle. Glorious Impact removes buffs and stuns multiple enemies. His iconic weapon 100 effect, Sunfire Pact, prevents him from dying for a short period and can reactivate after cooldown. His iconic weapon 600 greatly reduces enemy critical damage resistance. Since he has reduced outside healing, he is better off in a team that avoids it. An example would be the Ninhursag meta team with Idun removed. Ninhursag and Kinich are in the front line, while you have Iset and the 2 fighters in the back line. When the Ninhursag meta team first started, it included Poseidon on the front line, so Kinich acts like a substitute for that version of the team. Despite being in the same faction, Kinich should avoid grouping with Chiron. Chiron, as his ultimate skill states, cannot deal critical hits, so Kinich's iconic weapon 600, which reduces enemy critical damage resistance, would be wasted with Chiron. As I mentioned earlier, Kinich helps heroes with high critical chance and damage, such as Lilith, Susanoo, Freya, Artemis, Oberon, and Sun Wukong. In summary, Kinich is an SSR Verdian tank hero that relies on his own healing while debuffing and stunning enemies. His crowd control skills are strong, and he can repeatedly stay alive through Soul Swap and Sunfire Pact. His strengths are his strong debuff, his good divinity skills, and his build for PvP. His weaknesses are his reduced outside healing and his inability to be useful for bosses and the Crusade Beta event. My next video will be covering his tier list placement and some more adjustments to my list. Thanks for listening.